Hello, my name's Colin Crithers, and I'm a student reporter and broadcaster at the University of Iowa. As a journalist, my job is to tell stories, while also balancing everything else going on in my life as a student. But no one tells our stories. So, my goal is to tell the stories of the student journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers all across the country. Let's walk the student beat. Welcome in. Today we're walking the student beat with Charlie Perlman of Northwestern. Charlie, thanks for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, Charlie, if you want to go ahead and start us off with a little bit of background about yourself and the journalistic outlets you work with.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Merrimack, New York. I went to Hackley High School. I wrote for the Dial there. Also in high school, I did some work for the Atlantic, doing some kind of archival stuff. I wrote a freelance piece for the LA Times High School Insider. Um, and now at Northwestern, I've been working with the Daily Northwestern student paper there. It's been great. I actually just wrapped up going to the NBA draft and the combine for them, and it's been a great experience. And I know you're an Iowa guy, and it's looking good for Bennett Sturts.
Oh, I hope so. I was happy to see him like obviously get drafted. And then I saw he's going like to the Thunder, and I was like, oh, he's pairing back up with Peyton Sanford.
Yep.
I thought that was fun. And then
Seems
obviously
like
they
a great
just,
guy.
yeah, I don't know how it's gonna work. Hopefully it'll be fine.
I think he's got it. He's a winner.
Oh, absolutely. I think the funniest part too, though, is the like Josh Dix got signed there as well. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm sure you saw that, and I was like, there's a whole reunion of Iowa down there.
Yep, for sure.
He still kind of counts. I mean, I know he's at Creighton, but he's one of the guys that we still like a lot up at Iowa.
Totally.
I say that's the other thing too, though. Obviously working some of the draft combine and the NBA draft itself. Your recommendation came in from Finn Keel at Wisconsin. If those listening remember his episode, dude was a wide knowledge of NBA and basketball. But I mean, you were as well. I was looking at some of your stuff, and we were talking about Finn a little beforehand, but you as well a little bit. I'll start with the basic. Just talk to me about your experience with the draft that literally just happened when we were recording this.
Yeah, the draft was an amazing experience. I mean, I got to go there because I went to the combine, which was in Chicago near Northwestern, and Nick Martinelli from Northwestern obviously got drafted 55th, the Clippers. But the draft was amazing. As soon as I got to the Barclays Center, there were fans like lined up all around, and I had to walk in the entrance by them and felt like an actual player. And then I walked in, and the first person I saw was Dusty May, standing there. I'm like, I forgot you're in the NBA now.
Yeah.
Um, but the whole experience was just super professional, ton of security and just ton of access. Super cool to be able to just talk to these players like on one of the best days of their life, probably. Besides, had maybe Baron Feinlein dropped a little bit, so maybe not the best of his life. But it was just a really sick experience. Got to meet a lot of great journalists. Ian Begley, who writes for the Knicks, I got to talk to him. Just a great guy, and I was able to ask a question to the Jack Kyle, the Knicks draft pick, on night two, and get it posted by SNY for the Knicks, and my Twitter started blowing up all these notifications, and that was a crazy experience. But to be in the room and watch these guys have a good some crazy moments and just have a great night was a really cool experience.
And not only SNY, but I also saw the NBA posted one of your quotes as well, one of your questions.
Yeah, my brother Jack, I was packing up to leave for the night, and he's like sending me screenshots. He's like, check your phone, and that was unbelievable. I mean, I was asking Malik Thomas a question about him playing the McDonald's All-American game in the Barclays Center, and now he's back there for the draft. And I thought in my head, like, that's a pretty good question. You know, I did a little bit of research before the draft. Had no idea the NBA was going to use it or post it, and now I've seen it on Instagram and YouTube, and also like TikTok. It popped up for me like yesterday, so it's been wild.
And I thought it was a great question too, because it was quick, but it also gave him so much to work with. And again, you gotta go to if you're listening to this, you gotta go to his Twitter, you gotta check it out. But I mean, this might be a little bit of a tougher question, but because we're student journalists and you're there asking something that, was very well received by the player and like the whole NBA organization, right? So what do you think kind of prepares you as a student to walk into an environment on the best day of these players' lives and be able to ask a good, concise question?
Yeah, you told me you were going to go easy on me with these questions, but
Sorry.
you I don't know. I think for a while growing up, meeting celebrities or athletes, you see them as kind of these big figures, but beginning to meet these guys to the combine and up the draft. they're just kids like ourselves, and it really helps that they're the same age as me. They're my draft year. If any better of a player, it could have been me. Definitely not, but they're regular guys, and all these other reporters, and they might be older, might be working for these big outlets, but they're still regular people. But I think I was the youngest reporter there, credentialed. Just doing your research, knowing that you have a privilege to be there, and kind of putting that in that time to get yourself on that same level, that same footing. And I feel like just doing all that prep work really helped. It's really the way it kind of works is that after AJ DeBonta got drafted, it was like over an hour until he got to the media for us to speak to him. It was pretty crazy. He's doing all the team content and all the other interviews with other influencers. And then it's kind of out of order who goes next. I know Darren Peterson was like fifth. He got pulled for something, and Keaton Wagler was in there before him, and Darius Acuff was before him. So you gotta be ready to go on the fly, have your notes up and set. And so just being ready for your opportunity and taking it, I think it's better to ask a question that's maybe not the best question and then kind of sit there and be quiet. That's sort of been a change in mentality for me, just taking your opportunities and get them and taking your shot.
No, I love that because I mean, there's sometimes you think there, and we've talked about it a few times with other people on this podcast about how, it's especially for a student just starting out, it might be harder or nerve-wracking to ask a question. But I think once you break that mold, you feel a lot better with the content you start getting as a journalist.
Yeah, for sure. I think just getting the reps in time after time. I mean, I remember asking my first question to Coach Chris Collins at Northwestern, and like I had to breathe, take some deep breaths before I asked it. It was very nerve-wracking, but I mean, they know how to work with the media now. These players are very well trained besides Axel Lindenborg, and they know what they're getting into, and they kind of are like on night two, there's actually students from the school of New York Times, a program that I went to in high school, and these are high schoolers asking questions. They're also a little nervous, but the players are just even keeled and respond the same way they would to a veteran reporter. So I think just not taking yourself too seriously at times and saying, "Hey, like, what's the worst that could go on here?" and just asking your question.
If you don't mind, actually talk about that program a little bit. I'm not very familiar. Just trying to describe what it is.
Yeah, so my junior summer was pretty crazy. At the same summer, I worked for the Atlantic for a couple weeks there, but the School New York Times, I was there through, I think I want to say 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I can't remember exactly. But we had to stay in the Fordham dorms. I took a class on, I think it was like mapping and like art. It was a strange class that like usually it's not up my alley, but I found it really intriguing. I got to go and explore the city a lot, meet with some really cool reporters from the Times and understand how that organization kind of functions. Obviously a huge outlet you hear a lot about. But yeah, it was cool to meet some student journalists from there for round two and kind of talk to them about their experience. And some of them went to some rival high schools of mine, and it was really nice to kind of like look back, even though it's only like 2 years ago for me. Made me feel kind of old, but it was a really cool experience there.
I bet it's also nice to just see the amount of growth still. Like, I don't care if it's like a month, 2 years, or just to be able to look back and say, hey, I've done something new or improved. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to make it to all these events I've been to now, the combine and the draft, and I went to the NFL combine during school. It just feels surreal. I mean, and there's just things you want to go to as a fan, things you hope to report on when you're like 50. Here before I'm 20, so it's a blessing, and it kind of goes into why I do all my prep work just to honor that privilege I've been given.
Yeah, I see about that too. Like, so the NBA draft, well, the NBA draft combine and then the NFL combine as well. Like, I know there's plenty of differences in general, but from a journalist perspective, like, how different is the prep work for it, or does it feel pretty similar?
Yeah, so I went to the NFL Combine with our sports management club at Northwestern, and that was super cool because there's a lot of Northwestern alums who work in front offices or coaching staffs, and we got to meet with them. Some also we were paired up with some reporters to talk to, and the whole vibe you get from the NFL Combine, and it's really just for like the reporters to hang out and see each other after like a long year. They were all saying, look, going in, if you run a 40-yard dash, that's a zero point 0.1 seconds faster, you're not moving at all. Like maybe a couple guys in there will lift a ton more or catch a crazy ball or do something. They'll move them up boards or down boards, but really you're not moving that much. And it's mostly about the medical stuff. It was hosted in Indianapolis because they have like all of the machinery they need for the medical testing. And so that's really the most important part of the combine and the interviews too, obviously. But for reporters, they were kind of there hanging out. I saw Shefty with his two phones and he's moving around and he was on the go, but really they all hang out and do some extracurricular stuff at night, it sounds like, and just have fun. It was really cool to meet them, but it's kind of a get together. But for the NBA combine, it was in Chicago. It was very low key. It was very like secretive going in there and talking to all the players. I mean, they're all there with all of their agents and their families and kind of going through the process. And you can see the nerves are pretty high. I think the NBA combine matters significantly more than the NFL combine. Just looking at like guys who were like who had the G League combine, got the call up to the NBA combine, and got drafted, who wouldn't have really been on boards. And you just see the movement on the. I mean, only 60 guys in the NBA draft, a lot more rounds in the NFL, so it's all more coveted. Um, but the process is super different. I mean, following Martinelli for my story from the combine, I could tell he was nervous. Nick's a great guy. I'm super happy for him. But at the combine, you could tell he was working 10, 15 times as hard as anyone else, diving on the floor, like going all out in the scrimmages where only like half the players even playing. Remember, he's on team with guys like Tyler Tanner and Floyd Madunga who were going back to college. You can tell like they were just there for and John Blackwell too. They were just there for the reps and kind of going through the motions. But he was diving on the floor, setting screens, boxing it out because it kind of mattered to all varying degrees for all these players what the combine meant to them. Some of the top players like AJ and Darren Peterson didn't even play on the scrimmages. Obviously, they don't need to. Don't do all the interviews and the workouts because they don't have to. So I think that was cool to see like what it meant to all these different players and also the combine. There's so many players there that when you go to talk to them for interviews, AJ, Cam Boozer, all these players are packed. They have all the media, and then you can really get some one-on-one time with some of these great players who go in the first round. Like I got to talk to Hannah Steinbeck and Christian Anderson, who are now going to be teammates together. But for long times, and also Nick obviously did not get a lot of media attention. Even some of his our rivals in Purdue, Trey Coppin Rennie got drafted, Braden Smith got drafted. Talking to them about their experience on the other side of some of those Northwestern upsets was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and I don't even know if you are supposed to technically say it as an Iowa person, but I was so happy that Martinelli got drafted. One, as you
Yeah,
said, great dude, but such a good athlete. He was so fun to watch.
yeah, totally. And I have to say, I love Bennett Sturts on the Iowa guys. I mean, I went to Tampa for March Madness just as a fan with my parents, and we saw the Iowa upset over Florida, and that was an amazing experience. But I mean, that slow pace with Ben McCollum at the helm, and he's just a great coach. I feel like Folgaros was going crazy, but I think for me, one thing that was interesting that I actually asked Bennett about at the combine was we saw like Texas Tech play and you saw Alabama play, and then when they finished their games, like they walked out, didn't even come to the stands. But Iowa like came into the stands. I was sitting in their student section, well, their family section, and they brought their bags, hugged their family, took pictures, hung out, and they carried all their own gear, these big bags, and it's like Bennett starts walking around in flip flops and carrying a huge bag, and this guy is going in the first round of the NBA draft, and that humble mentality was really cool to see, and it's like a program that's been built the right way, in my opinion.
And say I was actually down there as well, like covering that, and that was I don't never stop talking about this game. I was there for their March Madness run. That was the one game I was courtside for. But the thing I'll tell people is like the best part about it was just how good it was to work with that team and the guys. Like it wasn't just you go in the locker room after a win and they'd be all uptight about whatever. They were letting loose, having fun, but making sure like they were keeping it like professional and everything. But they were fun to talk to. It wasn't just, all right, I'm talking to someone that just won a game. They don't want to give us much. Like they're gonna celebrate it. And that was I think what made it the most enjoyable part of that.
Yeah, it just seemed like a great group of guys, and that was a crazy fun run to watch.
It's ridiculous. I mean, there were no other words for it. It was very ridiculous of a run. Like I'll tell you that we didn't expect it. I don't think many people really expected it, but the people up at Iowa would definitely take it. We'll say that. Well, let's rewind a little bit for you real quick before we dive into some of your stuff at Northwestern. If you can remember maybe a certain moment or a thought that you had of saying, "Hey, this is what I want to do." You remember why you decided you wanted to get into journalism?
Yeah, it's a funny story. Going into high school, I was not gonna work for the paper. I wasn't gonna do any of that stuff, take the classes to do it. And my mom suggested it to me, and I was like, no way. It wasn't even on my radar. It wasn't in my plans, and she convinced me to do it. And I just remember. writing my first story, even before freshman year started. I had my twin brother was an amazing athlete in high school, and I did a story profiling a soccer team in preseason. And I came to my first class with this, I think it was like 1,000 word story before I even like learned anything. And they were like, "Who is this guy? What is he? Why is he so invested?" And I don't know. From there, my love has just grown. I've always been a huge sports fan. Always loved the stories behind sports and individual players. Like we talk about March Madness, I think that's one of the best examples of these Cinderella darlings. You have no idea who their names are, and now like Jack Golke and just all these players you hear of that like you never knew their stories, and now you hear them all the time. I think that's one of the coolest events and something that always inspired me. And then just the power sports have. I think you hear a lot of times sports is a distraction from real jobs or politics that actually matter, but the influence that sports can have on just all areas of life is amazing. I'm working for Men in Blazers right now, which is a soccer media network for the World Cup, and I just came across the clip of Didier Drogba literally solving or helping to end a civil war in his country after they played a game and qualified for the World Cup. Like this is an amazing impact that sports can have, and to be able to report and tell people's stories is just an amazing opportunity.
No, it's beautiful. Would you say that's probably your favorite part of journalism, is like those individual stories on just on different individual athletes?
Yeah, I'd say 100%. I'd say anytime I get to write a feature or one of those like human interest stories, it's really amazing. And being able to cover Martinelli for the Combine, I think is probably my favorite story I've written for the Daily. I think I wrote a tweet saying that, but it was just an amazing experience, kind of getting to follow someone one-on-one. I also think it was interesting to see like a guy like Nate Ament who went to the Bucks, who's getting a lot of hate online, saying his vertical's not that great and he's not a good player. And I don't know why he's a 5 star or why he's a projected lottery guy. He's just a great guy. And we had a nice conversation, just talking about his Rwandan heritage and how he's honored his family there and with his own like colorway he put on the flag there and he went there and like these are good guys who like you don't see that side of them and to tell that story is a really cool experience.
No, absolutely. I think the human interest stories again are also like they're just so well crafted. So I think as a journalist, that brings out like a little bit more of your creative side of stuff, but also you get to tell a story that matters about a lot of these athletes or coaches or fans or whoever it might be. So you said you're helping out with like some World Cup coverage right now, right?
Yeah, I'm working for Men in Blazers. It's a soccer media network. Check it out on Instagram. It's pretty awesome. It's run by Roger Bennett. I had the privilege of going to high school with his kids, and I reached out to see if I could help. And I've been doing a lot of social media marketing for them, helping out with their TikTok and kind of overseeing a lot of the platforms there, but mostly TikTok. So good to follow on TikTok. Um, but it's been a blast. I mean, they're all about the stories. They're all about this player who's playing for whatever country he used to play high school in America, and this goalie, like you've probably seen the stories of from Curacao or Cape Verde or wherever they're from, or they entered the World Cup with 4,000 Instagram followers and leaving with 15 million. Like it's these players that you have no idea about come together on the global stage and playing for their country. I think that's one thing about me is I love Team USA, so seeing them lose last night to Turkey was hard, even though I know it doesn't really matter for standings or moving forward. But it's really cool to see players represent their country, how passionate they are, how into the fans are all are. I went to the USA game versus Germany, the friendly in Chicago, just as a fan, and I see the energy that the USA fans had. As a nation that soccer is not our main sport was just amazing. I think the game is growing a lot, and even though I only played 1 year of JV soccer, I mean this is amazing sport and so awesome to cover.
I I think it's so fun to just look around and see how unifying it is with everyone coming together. Like, all right, let's watch this game now. And there's like so many different people doing this and that. You'll see like, what was it? I'm a big baseball fan, so I saw like the Norwegian fans at the Mets game, and they're doing the conga line after Dansby Swanson hits a home run, and I'm like, you know what? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean some of these fan bases are just unbelievable. Japan, Scotland, Norway, they're utterly insane. They travel across the world to go here and just have really made it into a really cool experience and created almost like these lifelong bonds. These cities like Scotland and Boston are like forever like connected now because of this experience, and it's really funny. I hope Scotland advances. I've become a big Scotland fan. I just love their energy, their songs, their team. It's a fun time.
When a group is fun, how can you not root for them, right?
I love it.
So would you say that Men Blazers, most of their stuff is kind of the human interest stories as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big emphasis on obviously telling news stories, getting out information that subscribers, fans, followers want to know, but also telling a lot of these stories that people would know about these players and how they got to where they are and kind of their background. I think I've always loved watching Roger Bennett's interviews when he's talking to players about them growing up and their parents, or where they played in academy or high school if they're American, or college, and asking them some of their experiences. And you can see like players visibly like relax, and they see they're in a comfortable space. I think that's a great thing to do as an interviewer, as a journalist, and they light up too when they talk about their heritage, their family, fun experiences growing up. I think it's always a great feeling as a journalist when you can tell that your interviewee is just really relaxed and calm, and I think that's a great privilege.
I think it helps both sides too. I feel like when I see that with someone, I feel more comfortable kind of like just give some normal questions and be like, oh, we'll just keep bouncing off each other here.
Totally. I mean, getting that flow is just really important, and getting that rapport down is also just a major factor. And getting a good soundbite if you want, but developing a relationship with the source.
Absolutely. And again, I will also link the Men in Blazers stuff wherever someone is listening to this, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. So we'll have that for you there. Let's talk a little bit about your time in Northwestern. We've already talked about it a good amount, especially with Nick Martinelli. Do you mostly cover the men's basketball team, or is there a little bit more of a mix in there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I have a major affinity for basketball, and so that's really drawn me to and college basketball, obviously, which in my opinion I might like more than the NBA. But obviously, the Knicks are coming off a championship, so it's kind of now it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I've covered all sports. I came in the fall, obviously, and covered a lot of field hockey, won the national championship. Shout out to them. I covered a lot of women's lacrosse, won the national championship. Shout out to them. But every sport in between. But yeah, basketball, definitely my favorite sport, and definitely one I love to cover the most. I think just given how small the team is, it really makes for like an intimate relationship with one another and kind of with the media too. You get to know each guy on the team so well. We had like two walk-on, and they were beloved by the media and the fans. And obviously, we had Jake West on our team, who's became famous on social media, and I got to know Jake pretty well, and the way he acts online versus in person is a little bit different. And he's a hard worker, and you see him, he's kind of like a pretty boy just doing TikTok, but he's really like a gritty guy, smart player. And he's been fun to get to know. And I got to know Cade Bennerman, a freshman. He just transferred to UNC after redshirting. He's a great guy. I'm excited for his redshirt freshman year at UNC. And all these players take different paths to get here, and we'll take different paths now on their own journey. So it's cool to get to know them that closely when the teams are that small.
Yeah, no, I love getting to know these players and then be able to be the one to be like, hey, now you guys can all learn about them. And I can share that with you there. Besides the Martinelli story, I'm gonna challenge a little bit on this one. Do you maybe what would you say is your favorite reporting experience while at Northwestern? Would it be one of those national championships?
Yeah, I mean,
There.
yeah, I would say this past spring when we won the women's lacrosse national championship, that was definitely I think or actually I covered. I'm gonna give you two here because I think it's a time in my
Go for
mind.
it. Absolutely.
So the women's lacrosse was amazing because the Final Four was held in Martin Stadium on our lakeside field there. I don't know if you've seen the imagery there. And that was amazing. It was the first time it's been held outside or in the Midwest, outside the East Coast, the finals and the tournament ever. And so people see like just so many young lacrosse players and men and women go to the game was really awesome. I think it's a super emotional experience just to see how much the game has grown and how much love there is for this team and these players. And also to knock off UNC after losing to them in the final and such a close game. Madison Taylor, Lucy Monroe was their senior years, and they took it home. I actually have a piece of the net from the I don't know how I got it. I was out in the field afterward, and um, one of the people from FLX was like, "You want to cut down a piece?" And I'm like, "Obviously." And
Yes.
so I admire him now. That was pretty awesome, but it was a really intense game, really cool game, two great teams, and now being able to watch some of those players win a national championship and go off and play in the WLL is a really awesome time. And I think my other experience that's tied with it would say we play a game at Wrigley Field every year for baseball.
Oh,
Um, And so that was actually my first time at Wrigley for a baseball game was to watch Northwestern play Indiana, who unfortunately beat us pretty bad. But I was able to get into the kind of like the photo pit there, near the dugout, and just be that close to the action. I was actually able to go on Wrigley Field, one of the most historic ballparks ever, and it was just really awesome, really great experience. And even though our team lost, it was I couldn't believe I was there. My first ever baseball game at Wrigley Field, I was able to stand like literally next to the ivy and really take it all in. So that was a night that I won't forget for a long time.
Oh yeah, the amount of people, I would say the majority of people listening just got really jealous of that right there, getting on Wrigley Field, because I know a lot of people like are from the Chicago area that'll listen to this and will be Cubs fans, obviously. And the Ivy is just so iconic. I know a few people that have gone on there because I think Iowa was there for the football game a couple of seasons ago. I know we'll be back at Northwestern this year, but it'll be with the new stadium. I think it's right after it's finally built because the first three games are like the lakeside still, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the plan right now is to open up on the new Ryan Field against Penn State, which is an interesting choice to open up your new stadium against. But I mean, we pulled off the upset last year. We pulled it off last year. That was pretty amazing. So
Yes.
hopefully we can do it again with Aiden Childs at quarterback. We brought in a pretty good transfer class, but I'm looking forward to the class of 27 for football. I think we have a crazy class coming in. I think David Braun's done a great job. Obviously, the addition of Chip Kelly, which I mean, I woke up the next morning to that news, and my dad and my brother were staying in the kitchen, and they're like, "This is the best gift you'll ever receive in your entire life," and it was Chip Kelly. And I think it's gonna be just a wild ride with him and his whole like just NFL driven staff. So I think we're looking down a great path for NU football.
So they're stacking things up over there. It looks like they're like really moving up with some stuff, especially with the Chip Kelly edition. I saw that and I was like, that's a tough beat now, I think, in major like for most teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think, when you've seen the success that Vanderbilt had as kind of a high academic institution with their sports now, and also Indiana flipping their program from one of the worst football teams to now winning a national championship. I think Mark Jackson, our AD, we got him from Villanova, has done a great job. I think he's super invested. I think he's super smart with approaching this whole new NIL landscape and recruiting and all that. And so I think we're set up pretty well for the future. And hopefully, I mean, we won a bowl game this year against, was it Central Michigan? So I think we're excited to get to another one this year, hopefully. Knock on wood there and keep rolling.
And yeah, sure, I'll knock on some wood for you guys right now. I got a wood desk in front of me. I'll start knocking. I don't know if you can hear it at all. I didn't want to go crazy on it, but we'll definitely say, yeah, I know the opening up against Penn State hard, but definitely not impossible. Especially
Mm.
after doing it last year. Now it's against Matt Campbell, and I know Iowa fans wouldn't mind beating back Matt Campbell.
Oh,
Does it
okay,
feel
I'll
weird to
play
be
it.
like, like James Franklin's no longer? One, it's still not in my head. Like James Franklin's no longer there, but two, it's like you're helped out with that part of it. You guys and UCLA were a big portion of that.
Of course, and any way we can help, we'll do that. That was those games are crazy. This is just a strange season we had. I mean, at Penn State game, I really wasn't paying that close attention in the first half. Kind of, all right, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? Because we opened the season with that Tulane game, and Tulane kind of just tore us apart there. Um, and I was like, what kind of year are we in for? And the team kind of regrouped. And Preston Stone, to his credit, after a rough first game, kind of hunkered down and really became a top player for us and grew that connection with Griffin Wilde, our wide receiver. Um, and then we kind of turned it around, made a great run at the end there, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it should be a good year in general, and I think that you're keep improving with everything. But again, with what we're doing here, I know I said I wasn't going to ask too many tough questions, but I am going to come back with the hard hitters a little bit, with I do as I do for pretty much everyone on here.
Let's
I'll
see.
start you with a very blanketed question that can go any direction with. Um, in your words, why do you believe student journalism is so important for people to pay attention to, especially for those on the outside of journalism looking in?
It's a great question. Um, I think if you're a sports fan, or if you're not, you're looking at some of like the most passionate work we've ever seen. I think when I do a lot of my prep work, it's not even really going to the stats or looking at, the Athletic or whatever website. It's looking at the college journalists. I think knowing myself, knowing my colleagues, and knowing students at other schools, how invested they are, how knowledgeable they are about their own fan bases and teams, like that's where you go for the most reliable information. I think student journalism is so important is because that's how you get to the next level. I mean, you see all of these top reporters, they all have to start somewhere. You don't just wake up one day and turn to Shams Charania or Adam Schefter or Wojnarowski. Like it doesn't happen like that overnight. And I think building those pathways for student journalists to kind of get their foot in the door, have an experience like mine at the combine or the draft, or meet some of these people and get inspired, get some connections, find your next step. I think it's incredibly important. I think student journalists are the foundation of why news and journalism are important itself. I mean, that's how you get to the next level and kind of keep spreading that message and the word.
I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a grind, and I think that's something that a lot of people on the outside don't see. Like, sure, everything is a grind. Like anything you go into, you're gonna have to work hard for. But especially student journalism, you're putting in that much more work because one, you like it, but two, there's a lot to cover out there. There's a lot of content. Everyone's very demanding for stuff, and you're balancing that with classes and college life outside of that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of students in Medill, our journalism school, who would say they do 1.5, maybe two times more work for their outlet than they do for their classes. And that's not to say the classes aren't easy, but that's just how dedicated they are in their work outside the classroom. And I think people think that journalism as a major, as a study, is fairly easy compared to some STEM majors. But to that, I'd say when you're a journalist, you have to wear many different hats. You have to be a mathematician. You have to be a historian. You have to be all these different professions to kind of understand a story, get your mind right to understand where people are coming from. I did a story on the new Ryan Field, and NWSL team, professional soccer team, the Chicago Stars, wanted to play in the new stadium, but there's all these economic advantages and downsides of them playing there with the city, all these laws in Evanston that kind of prevented it from happening. And so to follow that process and really understand what was going on there, I had to be an economist. I had to understand math in a way that a lot of journalists really aren't good at, myself included. That was difficult, but we have to put on many different hats and try our hand at so many different things. So I think that's something that's really misconstrued about student journalism and just journalism as a whole.
I like painting it that way with like the many different hats, a whole collection of it. Like even if it's just in sports, like to go back to last night's when we were recording this USA Turkey game, if you're going to go broadcast it or report on it, it's probably a good idea to have a decent background knowledge of Turkey and their soccer history. Just like anything you're covering, whether it's in news or politics or in sports, it's good to have that background info to where all right, if I do a story on like anthropology, I'm probably gonna need a little anthropology background or knowledge. So you're constantly doing homework, but at least like for me, especially in sports, it's homework that I enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, I got to talk to Mike Greenberg, a Northwestern alumni. Um, and he said context is everything. The more you can understand it, the more you can, put everything together is huge. And I think it also shows a lot of respect to a certain team or program or sport to get to know it. Going into high school, I didn't know much about field hockey, but then coming to our field hockey team in high school, I got to learn more. I got to learn from our great coach, Jenny Leffler. She taught me a lot. But then getting to college too, putting out time to learn these players' backgrounds and their story, and also just to follow the teams we're playing, and understanding why this game matters so much, why that play mattered so much. That shows your respect and how much you care about this team and in your career.
Yeah, I think it is a big thing of respect as well. And I think that that's a great way to put it. The other thing too is, I mean, Northwestern, we brought up a few times some of the alums from there, and it's a very impressive journalism school. If those listening aren't familiar, really one of the best programs around. Is that something that really drew you in, just like the journalism school being so impressive, or the alumni they have, or was there something else there?
Yeah, I'd say 100%. I remember my first info session for the school. Um, I forget the name of the man. I met him out a couple times, but he was talking about his experience, and he was actually in Medill, and he said, I got connected somehow, and Michael Wilbon came back and he talked to us, and he said, "Here's my phone number. Text me if you ever need anything." I'm like, "This is Michael Wilbon," and I turned to my dad and I said, "I have to go here. Like, this is amazing. This doesn't sound real." And then at the combine, I turn around and I see Michael Wilbon, and I just kind of freaked out. And getting to talk to him, and we talked for like 20 minutes about everything from NBA to women's lacrosse. And he's a really nice guy, really great experience, and that was kind of just full circle for me. And being like, wow, I made it here, and then I had the same experience that drew me into the school. That was just an amazing moment. And then professors like Jay Adonde. I did a summer program at Northwestern my junior year called Cherubs. And he's a professor there for me too. And now he's back as a professor now. I know he stepped down from doing full-time teaching. He's so involved there though with sports journalism, and he's the one who brought in Mike Greenberg. And he's at the combine too. And so being next to David Aldridge and Jay Adonde trying to ask questions to Darren Peterson, I after that media availability of the combine, I was like, I can't believe this is my life. Like I can't believe I'm 19 and getting to do this. So it's been a wild journey so far, and I just can't wait to see what's next.
I mean, it's a dream, right?
I mean, exactly. That's exactly how I put it. A dream.
It's the dream. That's what I tell myself every day. Sure, there's a good bit of work that goes into it, but living the dream each day, you know, I'm covering whatever sport, I'm broadcasting this sport, and as long as you love it, that's what matters, right?
Totally. 100%.
And I gotta ask you based off that, right? And I'll skip to one of my usually final questions. If you go back to the kid that was just entering that class in high school, writing that 1,000 word article, thinking you wouldn't do it at first, and now got to tell him, hey, like I just covered an NBA draft combine and NBA draft. Like, what would you be able to tell that kid? How do you think he'd react?
That's a great question. I mean, it's a question you've seen some people ask at the combine and the draft that I probably should have an answer prepared for myself, but I never thought of that for myself.
It's such a hard one to think of.
I'd say, I'd say at first he wouldn't believe you. I have this opportunity now, but then I think in the back of his mind he'd know that um that I could find a way to do it. But I just don't think at this point he would have thought at 19, I mean, finishing his freshman year in college, that I'd be able to do this. I just met so many influential people along the way to even get to the combine. There's a lot of talented sports journalists in the Chicago area who don't get to go. I was connected to the NBA media people by a high school coach of mine, David Zenon. He's an amazing guy, and he helped connect me to some people in the media side of the NBA to even get my credential in the first place. And once you get that credential, it helps you lead to the draft, and then we'll see what's ever next. But I've been so privileged to come from a great situation and people in my corner that's helped me out so much. So I just feel super blessed, and I think that kid would say the same thing. He'd say, knowing the support system that I had around me in high school and have now, that I would have the opportunities, and that he would be glad that I took my shot.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. And again, I think that's what matters, just knowing that, hey, you've got that confidence to make sure that, you know, you're gonna put in the work. And that's something I always tell myself. I know I'm not like the best journalist or broadcaster usually, but I'm gonna put in the work that, you know, hopefully you don't see it much. Before we close this thing out, I'll ask you one more question, but first, go ahead and give yourself a little bit of a self plug. Where can people find you and your work after they're done listening to this episode?
I love that. Thank you. So my Twitter is a lot, or where I post a lot of my articles from the various outlets where they get posted, or just any kind of reporting I do. It's I think Charlie_Perlman, I'm pretty sure, on Twitter. And then I do a lot of photography. This is actually crazy. From the draft, after night one, I posted some pictures, whatever, and it was all my friends and family commenting, saying it's a great picture, whatever, nice job, nice work. I have one DM and I go to it, and it's Darius Acuff Jr. being like, "Send me the photos you got of me," and I was like, Darius, how'd you find my work? Like, I have a pretty small account, but I was able to send the photos to him, and that was pretty sick. I mean, the seventh pick in the draft, one of the best players to ever play in the SEC when you look at the stats. Amazing. So my sorry, I got off the track there. That was just a crazy experience. But
It's
my
awesome.
Instagram is CPerl photo, CPERL photo on Instagram. So yeah.
And again, I will make sure to link everything for wherever anyone's listening to this so that they can easily get to all that stuff as well. I gotta ask you again real quick though, like the photos, ACUF messaging, like that's super sick. Is that something you kind of just do like for fun as well, or is it a little bit of your journalism work tied into it?
Yeah, I mean, you'll definitely know this. Everything you hear from all the professionals now in the space is that you have to kind of be like this multi-tool and have all these different aspects to your stuff. Like, what do you do with radio and on screen? I've never really been good on television in front of the camera, but I've been pretty good behind it. And so photography's always been a passion of mine. But I mean, getting the opportunity to take pictures at the draft, just a crazy experience. And having players like that reach out is always great. Whether it's Northwestern players, whether it's my boys in high school asking for pictures of them playing, I'll do any level, any sport, anybody. But to have an NBA player reach out like Darius Acuff, just so thankful for that. That was a really nice gesture, and I hope he likes the photos. I didn't really hear back from him. He liked the messages twice, and hopefully he downloaded them, and maybe we'll see them in a post coming up from him.
Yeah, okay. Pay attention to Aco's Instagram. It should be coming up. That'd be sick though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, right before we end this one out, I gotta ask you one last final thing here. If you had advice for someone who is just entering the sports journalism world, whether it was high school or college, and you had to pick out one thing to tell them, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
Hmm. I would just say try. Um, just try. Just do whatever you can. Talk to anyone you want to. Message them. I mean, the amount of messages I've sent when I got no response back, it's like you can't go worse than that. You just stay even. Any response you get is great. Keep moving. Keep meeting people, and just keep writing. Um, I think if I go back to that 1,000 word piece I wrote my freshman year of high school, it probably sucked compared to what I do now and compared to, journalism standards. That's okay. And you have to get better. Everyone starts from somewhere. I think a lot of times in the past, I've been so afraid of failing or not being perfect that you shy away from it. But the more you can really put yourself out there and try your best, that's huge. And yeah, I mean, there's a quote from Jim Carrey that I think about a lot where he was talking about his father and how he wanted to go into comedy too, but he went into accounting, I think it was, which is he said it was a safe job, and his dad got fired from that safe job. And he says, if you can fail at what you love, why not fail at what you if you can fail what you don't love, why don't you fail like what you do? I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but I think why not go for it? Why not take a shot and do what you love? You only got a short time here on this planet. Why not go for it, do something you love and have fun with it?
Enjoy your time while you got it. And again, I love that lesson that anyone can learn with anything they're doing of doesn't hurt to try.
Totally. It's simple, but I think it gets the point across, and you'll see that once you keep trying, something will finally break through, and then once you get your foot in the door, just close it behind you and just keep going.
You'll find your groove, you'll find yourself, which is also another important thing in journalism. It's just don't need to be like everyone else, just gotta find yourself and let that work.
Totally.
Well, again, thank you so much for spending some time with me here today and joining us here on the Student Beat.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Student Beat. Make sure to check out all of Charlie's work and follow along with him and his journey while at Northwestern. If you want to be the next guest on the Student Beat or know someone that you believe should be, don't be afraid to DM the podcast on social media. Speaking of, that's where you can stay up to date with all upcoming episodes by following on X, Instagram, or TikTok at the Student Beat. We just walked the Student Beat. I'll see you next week for a brand new episode.